Now, let's go to word number 2. Go with me to Galatians chapter 3, okay? Remember, we're walking, we're trailing words through the Bible. And we're looking at words for redemption, and there are 3 of them. We've seen the first one is this agorazo. Here's the second word, translated redeem and redemption, but it's the second word. And the second word means to be bought out of the slave market of sin. The word is ex agorazo, and it's in verse 13 of chapter 3. And it says, Christ has, and see the word there, redeemed. In the New King James, it's redeemed. It's very similar in English, redeemed, redeem, but it's a completely different word in Greek. And what it is it's the word agorazo, to buy at the slave market, but a preposition has been joined at the front end of it, and it's ex agorazo. This second word means bought out of the slave market. It's like a house taken off the market. It's no longer for sale. Jesus, when he redeemed us, takes us off the market. We belong to him. We're no longer to be sold back into sin. We don't go back on the market, as it were, for the devil. Closely tied to the doctrine of redemption is this doctrine of adoption. Keep going in chapter 3. It says, verse 13, having become a curse for us, for it is written, cursed is everyone who hangs on the tree. But you notice he redeemed us from the curse of the law. What is that? The curse of the law is kind of like the idiot lights on your car. If you have an old enough car to have idiot lights. Idiot lights are those red things that used to say, check oil, check engine, check brakes. A red light would come on. It's like the person that was driving their parents' car, and they called up and they said, hey, how you doing at college with our car? They said, oh, great. They said, I had this annoying red light that kept saying check oil. I just put tape over it because I didn't want to, it kept bothering me, blinking at me. That is a picture of the law. The law only points out something's wrong. See, the check engine or check oil light doesn't give oil, doesn't fix the engine. It just says there's something wrong. The law says you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Everything you do is wrong. That's a curse. We're just buffeted with everything we're doing wrong. But look what it says in 3:13. Christ has redeemed us from the curse of the law. How did he do that? He came down into the slave market, and this word means he bought us out of the slave market. Look at chapter 4. It gets a little clearer. Look at verse 5. Galatians 4:5. To redeem, same word, ex agorazo, to redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive adoption. There's the great doctrine of adoption. You know what adoption is? You know what the depths of the theological meaning of adoption is? It means we're adopted. Isn't that amazing? You know what it means? It means God comes to the orphanage, the slave market of sin, and through the justifying death of Christ, pays the price for our sin and purchases us out of the slave market and says, you now belong to me. You can live with me. And I'm going to live in you. When Bonnie and I were first starting out in ministry, as I've mentioned many times, we were in California, and I was teaching seminary at the Master's Seminary and pastoring at Grace Community Church with Dr. MacArthur, and there were a lot of nice people at Grace, thousands of them, and one of the nice people one time says, hey, do you want to come up to our cabin? I mean, I was from Michigan. I thought of this kind of little tiny thing up on stilts by a lake, that the floor creaks. His cabin was next door to Bill Gates on the Puget Sound, and in Washington, So I didn't know that, so I said, yeah. And we get there, and we're sitting in this multi-million-dollar cabin. And I didn't know where we were, and he said, do you see that man walking? And have you ever seen Bill Gates' house? It's as big as the Portage Mall. And you'd see him walking by a window there, and we'd sit there and we'd watch and we watch. 10 minutes later, you'd see him go by that window. He was just going from his bedroom to the kitchen, and he'd just walk like that. And we would sit there, and I thought, if Bill and Melanie, they're multi-billionaires. Can you imagine them going to a typical third world orphanage and finding some emaciated, just terribly sick and decaying teeth and tattered clothes little child. And they say, we would like to adopt this child and she will become in our family. And can you imagine that little child saying, thanks for adopting me, and turning around with their decaying teeth and all of their medical disorders and their frayed clothes and their malnourished condition, and staying in the orphanage? Did you know that's what the Lordship controversy was about? Jesus, who came to the orphanage to buy us, the slave market of sin, says, I redeemed you out of this place. You need to come out of this place. You need to let me clothe you, feed you. You need to let me get rid of the parasites that are sapping your strength, the sins that so easily beset you. You need to allow me to take you out of here. The pastor that kicked off the Lordship controversy said, all my people aren't saved from the waist down. They like the orphanage better than the mansion. They like the rags. They like the parasites. They love that stuff. They don't want to live on the new diet. Their lusts are for the flesh. The justifying death that buys us out of the slave market of sin. You understand? Do you see there's a problem here? A gospel message that tells people, Jesus died for you so you can live the rest of your life with the parasites, just totally eaten up by worms and shoddy and malnourished and sickly. That he's got a mansion for you someday, but it doesn't affect you today, is only half the gospel. You understand? And what Paul said is, look at verse 5, to redeem those who are under the law. What did the law do? The law was saying you're sick and you're a slave. To redeem those, to buy them out of being under the law, so that we might receive adoption as sons. The second purpose of redemption is this. We were bought to be adopted and never to live in the slave market anymore. That's what redemption is all about. Redemption is Jesus is treated by God like he committed every sin I ever committed. That's justification. That's why he died. But he did all that so that he could move inside of me and empower me to leave the slave market of sin and to live in newness of life. You know how Paul put it? Therefore, if anyone be in Christ, he is a what? New creation. The old things are passing away. See, that's the gospel. And that's redemption. And that's what communion portrays, this cup of blood. Every time you hold that in your hand, you're saying, I was bought. I was bought at the slave market by a redeemer, and he bought me, secondly, out of the slave market to be his child, to be his purchased possession, so that I would glorify him. And you say, that's him. How is all that possible? In Christ. In Christ we have redemption. In Christ we have adoption. In Christ we have forgiveness. And as we just read in John chapter 8, if Jesus sets you free from the slave market of sin, you're free indeed.